The moment I opened my laptop and showed my family my bank statement, my mother's face went completely white. For 8 years, they called me the family disappointment while I secretly paid their bills. But when they saw that $1.8 million balance, everything changed. Let me take you back to the beginning of this story, because what happened that night didn't just change my family, it changed everything I thought I knew about love, sacrifice, and what it really means to be valued. Asterisk, my name is Sarah. And for as long as I can remember, I've been the invisible child in my family. Not invisible because I was ignored, quite the opposite. I was very much seen, just never in the way I wanted to be. My older brother Michael was the golden child. Harvard Law School, successful practice, married to the perfect woman, 2 beautiful kids. He was everything my parents wanted in a son. Smart, ambitious, charismatic. The kind of person who walks into a room and everyone notices. My younger sister, Jessica, was the princess. Beautiful, social media savvy, with that effortless charm that made everyone adore her. She had this way of lighting up a room that I never quite mastered. Where Michael was the brain of the family, Jessica was the heart. And then there was me, Sarah, the middle child who somehow managed to be forgettable even when I was sitting right there. I wasn't brilliant like Michael, and I wasn't charming like Jessica. I was just there. My parents never outright said I was a disappointment, but I could feel it in every interaction. The way they'd light up when talking about Michael's latest case or Jessica's growing Instagram following, but when it came to my life, the conversations were always brief and polite. How's work, Sarah? Fine, Mom. That's nice, dear. And that was it. No follow-up questions, no genuine interest. I worked for a tech startup, not glamorous enough for their standards, I suppose. I lived in a modest apartment, not impressive enough. I wasn't married, concerning to them. I didn't have kids, disappointing. But here's what they didn't know. I was perfectly happy with my life. I loved my job, I loved my independence, and I was actually doing incredibly well. Better than they could have ever imagined. 3 years ago, the startup I'd been working for since college was acquired by a major tech company. My equity stake, something I'd never mentioned to my family because they wouldn't have understood. It anyway suddenly became worth $2.3 million after taxes. I remember the day I got that call from our CEO. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, eating takeout Chinese food when my phone rang. When he told me the acquisition numbers, I literally choked on my lo mein. But instead of running to tell my family, instead of shouting from the rooftops, I made a decision that would define the next 3 years of my life. I decided to keep it secret. Not because I was ashamed of my success, but because I wanted to see what my family was really made of. I wanted to know if they could love me for who I was, not what I had. And honestly, I also wanted to help them without all the complicated emotions that come with knowing your failure. Daughter is actually more successful than the rest of the family combined. Asterisk. So I became their anonymous guardian angel. Every time my family faced a financial crisis, I found a way to help without them knowing it was me. It started with Michael. 2 months after my windfall, he was stressed about his student loan payments. Harvard Law isn't cheap, and even with his successful practice, he was drowning in $180,000 of debt. I watched him lose sleep, snap at his wife, worry constantly about money. So I called his loan servicer, pretended to be from a law firm handling an anonymous benefactor's estate, and paid off his entire balance. When Michael called the family, ecstatic about his miraculous loan forgiveness program, I smiled and congratulated him like everyone else. Next was Jessica. She was trying to start her influencer business but couldn't afford the equipment, the marketing, the professional photography she needed. She was working 3 jobs to save up, exhausting herself, getting discouraged. I created a fake contest, complete with a professional website and everything, and made sure Jessica won $50,000 in business startup funds. Watching her cry tears of joy when she got that call was worth every penny and every hour I spent creating that elaborate ruse. Then came the big one. In 2019, my parents were facing foreclosure. Dad's small business had taken a hit during the economic downturn, and they were 3 months behind on mortgage payments. I watched my strong, proud father crumble, and my mother cry in the kitchen when she thought no one was looking. They were too proud to ask for help, and honestly, they probably didn't think I could help anyway. What could their disappointing daughter do? So I became their miracle. I called their bank, posed as a representative from a charitable foundation that helps families in crisis, and arranged for their entire back payment and 6 months of future payments to be covered. $85,000 gone from my account in a single day. When my parents got that call, when they learned their house was saved, they thanked God, they thanked the universe. They thanked everyone except the person who actually saved them, because they had no idea it was me. The pattern continued. When Dad needed heart surgery and the insurance didn't cover everything, a mysterious billing error resulted in a $35,000 credit to their account. When Michael got married, an anonymous wedding gift of $25,000 showed up just when they needed it most. When Jessica crashed her car and couldn't afford a replacement, she won another contest. For 8 years, I was the invisible hand that kept my family afloat. I estimated that I'd spent over $400,000 on various family members, and not once did any of them suspect it was me. Why would they? I was just Sarah, the disappointment, struggling in my little apartment with my unremarkable job. Asterisk, but living a lie, even a generous one, takes its toll. Every family gathering became an exercise in self-control. I'd sit there listening to Michael talk about his lucky breaks, Jessica discuss her contest wins, and my parents marvel at their miracle blessings, all while they continued to treat me like the family afterthought. The comments were constant and subtle. Sarah, maybe you should consider a more stable job. Sarah, don't you think it's time you found someone and settled down? Sarah, we worry about your future. They worried about my future while I was literally funding their present. The irony was suffocating, but I told myself it was worth it. I was helping people I loved, and their happiness was what mattered. I could live with being underestimated if it meant they were thriving, but there's only so much a person can take before something inside them breaks. That breaking point came on my mother's 58th birthday. We were all gathered at my parents' house, the house I had saved from foreclosure, though no one knew that. Michael was there with his wife and kids. Jessica brought her new boyfriend, and I came alone, as usual. Dinner was beautiful. Mom had gone all out, and everyone was sharing updates about their lives. Michael had just made partner at his firm. Jessica had hit 100,000 followers and was getting brand deal offers. Even Dad had good news about his business picking up. When it came to me, I shared that I'd gotten a small promotion at work. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, just a modest step forward in my quiet little life. The response was the usual polite nodding and quick subject changes. But then, as we were having dessert, the conversation took a turn that would change everything. You know, Mom said, setting down her wine glass and looking around the table. I'm so proud of how well you've all done. Michael, your success at the firm is incredible. Jessica, watching you build your brand has been amazing. She paused, and I waited for my inclusion in this praise. That didn't come. Instead, she turned to me with that look I knew so well, the sympathetic, worried expression she reserved for life's disappointments. Sarah, honey, I need to ask you something, and I hope you won't take this the wrong way. My Stomach dropped. I knew that tone. Are you ... Are you happy? I mean, really happy. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're just ... stuck. Michael's building something real. Jessica's making her mark on the world, but you're still in that same apartment, same job, same life you had 5 years ago. The table went quiet. Everyone was looking at me now, and I could see the pity in their eyes. Mom, I'm fine, I started, but she held up her hand. Let me finish. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I'm worried that maybe I failed you somehow. Maybe I didn't push you hard enough or expect enough from you, and now you're just ... comfortable with mediocrity. The words hit me like physical blows, but she wasn't done. I look at Michael and Jessica, and I see ambition, drive, success. When I look at you, I see someone who's given up, someone who's accepted being ordinary. And I have to ask myself, where did I go wrong with you? The silence stretched on forever. Michael was staring at his plate. Jessica was checking her phone. Dad was refilling his wine glass, avoiding eye contact. Finally, Mom delivered the killing blow. I'm sorry to say this, Sarah, especially on my birthday, but you've become my biggest disappointment. Not because you're a bad person, you're not. You're kind and thoughtful and reliable, but you're just not trying anymore. You're not becoming anything. And that breaks my heart. In that moment, sitting at that table, surrounded by the people I had secretly supported for 8 years, I felt something inside me snap. Not anger, exactly. Not even hurt, though there was plenty of that. It was more like clarity. Sudden, crystal clear. Understanding of exactly what was happening and exactly what I needed to do about it. I looked around the table at my family. At Michael, who owed his debt-free life to me. At Jessica, whose entire business was built on money I had given her. At my parents, who were sitting in a house I had saved, healthy because of medical bills I had paid, and I made a decision that would change everything. You know what, Mom? I said, my voice surprisingly calm. You're absolutely right. I think it's time for some truth in this family. I reached into my purse and pulled out my laptop. What are you doing? Jessica asked, but I ignored her. I opened the laptop, navigated to my banking app, and turned the screen toward my mother. You want to know if I'm happy with my life? You want to know if I'm trying hard enough? Let me show you something. The screen displayed my main checking account. Balance, $1,847,293.52. The effect was immediate. Mom's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Her face went completely white, and for a moment, I thought she might faint. That's your account? She whispered. It is. But how? The company I work for? That unremarkable job you're always worried about? We were acquired 3 years ago. My equity stake was worth $2.3 million after taxes. The silence around the table was deafening. Michael's mouth was literally hanging open. Jessica had put her phone down and was staring at the screen like it might disappear. But wait, I said, my voice still eerily calm. There's more. I clicked over to my transaction history and began scrolling through the entries. Let me show you where some of this money went over the past 8 years. I clicked on the first major transaction, student loan payment, M. Johnson, $180,000. Michael's face went from confused to shocked to horrified in the span of about 3 seconds. Michael, I said, looking directly at him, remember that miraculous loan forgiveness program that paid off all your student debt? That wasn't a program. That was me. Sarah, what? I'm not done. I scrolled to the next major transaction. Emergency home payment, $85,000. Mom, Dad, remember when the bank called to tell you that a charitable foundation had saved your house from foreclosure? There was no charitable foundation. That was me too. Dad's face had gone ashen. Mom looked like she was going to be sick. I kept scrolling, reading off transaction after transaction. Medical bill payment, $35,000. Dad's heart surgery. Anonymous wedding gift, $25,000. Michael's wedding. Contest prize payment, $50,000. Jessica's business startup funds. Vehicle replacement, $40,000. Jessica's car after the accident. With each revelation, the silence grew heavier. Jessica was crying now, though I couldn't tell if it was from shock, shame, or something else. 8 years, I said, finally closing the laptop. 8 years of being your safety net while you treated me like your charity case. $415,000 of my money keeping this family afloat while you worried about my future. Sarah, we had no idea. Mom started, but I held up my hand. Of course you had no idea. Why would you? I'm just the disappointment, right? The one who's not trying hard enough. The one who's stuck in mediocrity. Asterisk, the room was so quiet you could hear the clock ticking on the kitchen wall. Finally, Michael found his voice. Sarah, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Why did you do all this in secret? I looked at him, my successful older brother who had built his entire post-graduation life on money I had given him, and felt an unexpected wave of sadness because I wanted to help you, because I love you, and because I wanted to see if you could love me for who I am, not what I have. We do love you, Jessica started, but I cut her off. Do you? Because for 8 years, you've treated me like the family failure while I was literally the one keeping you all afloat. Every time you worried about my finances, every time you suggested I needed to be more ambitious, every time you looked at me with pity, I was writing checks to save your lives. Mom finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. Sarah, honey, we're so sorry. We had no idea. If you had known what? You would have treated me differently? You would have respected me? Because here's the thing, Mom, I shouldn't have had to prove my worth with money. I shouldn't have had to fund your lives to earn your love. I stood up from the table, suddenly exhausted by the weight of 8 years of secrets. Do you know what it's like to save your family over and over again while they tell you you're not enough? Do you know what it's like to be generous and get cruelty in return? To be successful and be treated like a failure? Sarah, please. Dad spoke for the first time, his voice broken. No, Dad, I'm done. I'm done being the invisible hero in my own family. I'm done being underestimated by the people who should believe in me most. And I'm definitely done being called a disappointment by people whose lives I've been supporting. I walked toward the kitchen door, then stopped and turned back. From now on, you can handle your own finances. The disappointment is officially retiring from the family rescue business. Sarah, wait. Mom was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. Please don't go. We can fix this. We can make this right. I paused at the doorway, looking back at my family, really looking at them. At their shocked faces, their guilty expressions, their belated realization of what they had lost. Some things can't be fixed, Mom. Some words can't be taken back. You called me your biggest disappointment on your birthday in front of everyone after 8 years of me being your guardian angel. That's not something you fix with an apology. But we love you, Jessica said, her voice small and desperate. I know you do, I replied. But you love the version of me that you created in your heads. The struggling, mediocre, disappointing daughter who needs your worry and your pity. You don't know how to love the real me, the successful, generous, accomplished woman who's been taking care of all of you. Asterisk, I left that night and I didn't look back. In the days that followed, my phone rang constantly. Text messages flooded in. Michael, Jessica, Mom, Dad, everyone wanted to talk, to explain, to apologize, to make things right. But I wasn't ready. 8 years of feeling like I wasn't enough doesn't get erased with a few phone calls. Michael's message was the longest. Sarah, I can't believe what I didn't see. You paid for my education, my wedding, probably a dozen other things I don't even know about. You gave me the freedom to build my career without the crushing weight of debt, and I never even thanked you because I didn't know. I'm ashamed of how I treated you, how we all treated you. You're not our disappointment, you're our hero, and we were too blind to see it. Jessica's was simpler, but no less heartfelt. I built my entire business on your generosity, and I spent 8 years making you feel small. I don't know how to live with that. I don't know how to make it right. I just know I love you, and I'm sorry. Mom's messages came in waves, each one more desperate than the last. Please call me back. Please let me explain. Please give us a chance to show you how much you mean to us. I was wrong, so wrong, and I don't know how to fix what I broke. But the message that affected me most came from Dad. Sarah, you saved our house, our health, our family, and we thank God instead of you. We looked for miracles in the sky when the miracle was sitting right at our dinner table. I'm ashamed of the father I've been to you. I'm proud of the woman you've become despite us, not because of us. 3 weeks after that dinner, I finally turned my phone back on and started reading all the messages I'd ignored. There were dozens of them, spanning from desperate apologies to painful self-reflection to genuine attempts at understanding without reading. Then I realized something I hadn't expected. My family was genuinely devastated. Not just because they'd been caught, not just because they felt guilty, but because they genuinely hadn't seen what was right in front of them. They had created a narrative about me based on limited information and their own assumptions. And then they had lived inside that narrative for so long that they couldn't see past it. To them, I was the quiet, struggling daughter who needed their concern. The idea that I might be the most successful person in the family, that I might be the one taking care of everyone else, had literally never occurred to them. It wasn't malicious. It was just blind. But blindness, I realized, can be just as damaging as cruelty. For 8 years, I had enabled that blindness. By staying quiet, by not defending myself, by secretly solving their problems instead of letting them know I was capable of solving problems. I had allowed them to continue seeing me as someone I wasn't. I had been so focused on proving I could love them without conditions that I had forgotten to demand the same in return. Asterisk 1 month after that birthday dinner, I finally called my mother back, Sarah. Her voice was hopeful and terrified at the same time. Hi, Mom. Oh, honey, I'm so glad you called. I've been going crazy not knowing if you were okay. I'm okay. I'm actually better than okay. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. There was a long pause. Then, Sarah, I need you to know how sorry I am. Not just for what I said that night, but for years of not seeing you, really seeing you. I know you are. I keep thinking about all the times you tried to tell us about your work, your life, and we just we didn't listen. We had this idea of who you were, and we couldn't see past it. That's exactly right. Can you forgive us? Can you forgive me? It was the question I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. Mom, I can forgive you. I do forgive you. But forgiving and forgetting are different things. And going back to the way things were, that's not happening. What do you mean? I mean, if we're going to have a relationship going forward, it has to be based on who I actually am, not who you think I should be. You have to accept that I'm successful, that I'm capable, that I don't need your worry or your pity. You have to trust that I can make my own decisions about my life. Of course, yes, absolutely. And Mom, the financial support stops here. Not because I don't love you, but because I realized that my helping was actually enabling all of you to see me as less than I am. If you need help in the future, you ask me directly and we discuss it openly. No more anonymous gifts, no more secret rescues. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about money. This is about respect. This is about seeing me as an equal member of this family, not as someone who needs to be managed or worried. About, Sarah, you're the strongest person I know. You always were. I just ... I couldn't see it. Asterisk, that was 6 months ago. Our family looks different now. We talk differently, relate differently, respect each other differently. Michael paid me back every penny of his student loans, even though I told him it wasn't necessary. It is to me, he said. I need to know that my success is my own. Jessica insisted on returning the business startup money and rebuilding her company from scratch. It's taking longer, but she says it feels more real now, more earned. My parents have been the most changed by everything. They ask about my work now, real questions that show genuine interest. They celebrate my successes instead of worrying about my choices. They treat me like an adult instead of a problem to be solved. And yes, they're struggling more financially without my secret support. Dad's business had some rough months, and they've had to make sacrifices they didn't have to make before. But they're handling it together as a family, without shame or secrets. The truth is, I don't know if our family will ever be what it could have been if they had seen me clearly from the beginning. Too much damage was done, too many years were lost, but I do know this. I would rather be respected for who I really am than loved for who I pretend to be. And for the first time in my adult life, when I sit at my family's dinner table, I'm not hiding anything. I'm not pretending to be less than I am. I'm not funding their lives while they pity mine. I'm just Sarah. Successful, generous, complicated, independent Sarah. And finally, that's enough. The disappointment, it turns out, was never me. It was the 8 years we spent not really knowing each other at all. But sometimes the best thing you can do for the people you love is to stop letting them settle for less than the truth. Even when that truth changes everything. Even when it breaks your heart to tell it, especially then. Asterisk, what would you do if your family didn't know the real you? Have you ever felt invisible in plain sight? Share your story in the comments below. You might not be as alone as you think. Asterisk.